Hello everyone and welcome to One Man Stream. Today's episode is Football Graphic 2024 and it's part 2. And if you can remember back in episode 102, it was actually an overview of what the graphic will do. And the graphic looks like this. And if you didn't have the opportunity or you didn't watch that tutorial, in the upper right hand corner right now there'll be a link. That link will take you to part 1 in this 3-part series, and then at the end of part 1 it will navigate you back to this video. What we're going to do is we're going to start off today in a GT Title Designer. And one thing that you need to remember when you're building graphics is it goes top to bottom. So this is actually, if we go all the way to the top here, and just one more thing I want to point out, you see where some of these eyeballs are highlighted and some of them are grayed out. When they're grayed out, that means you have that element turned off. So if I click this on, you're going to see where that special text pops in right there. So just to show you, if I click layer 1 is the topmost layer, and if I click that, I'll turn it off and you can see what's underneath of it. And then I'm going to come here to layer 2 and I'm going to turn that off. And then that just leaves layer 3, which is the bottommost layer. Now, I'll go ahead and set this layer in motion for you. This is actually the beginning animation, and you can see that we have just some rectangles that are going from left to right and bottom to top. And actually, I probably need to slow those down a little bit because those are a little bit fast. But I'll click the button one more time, and you can see what happened. So what I did to create that effect is I created these skews here. Basically what these skews are, they're just an elongated rectangle. So let's click on where it says skew 1 here, and we're going to go up to format, and we're going to see that the width of it is 70 and the height is 318. So what we're going to do is we're going to click here, hover over it, it says rectangle. We're going to bring this over here. And what we're going to do is we're going to make it that same size as the skew, which was 70 by 318. So let's click on this. We're going to go up here. We're going to make it a width of 70 and a height of 318. Now, one more thing that we did on this is we actually have some rotation on these skews so that they go left to right, bottom to top. We'll click on the rectangle and you can see these arrows here that converge. If you hold down your control key and then spin these, or just kind of pull your mouse down, it's going to give you some rotation. So let's just go ahead and we're going to say this is a -20 on the Z axis. So let's go ahead and we're going to position it. Going to move it up a little bit, and then we're going to move it over, and all I'm doing is using the arrow keys on my keyboard. And you can see right here where it kind of extends out over top of this gray area here, which is actually what we want to use in our animation. So how we deal with that is we created a mask, and you can see that when I click on it, you can see that it says main graphic mask. So what we do is we're going to click on that rectangle 1, and then we're going to go up here to where it says effects, and you can see where it says mask, and we're going to click this drop down, and we're going to click where it says main graphic mask, and you can see what happens. Only the part that is contained within this background or within this gray rectangle, the main gray rectangle, is being shown. So I'm going to go ahead and show you what we did on the animation. What we did is a reveal, and we did it from bottom to top. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. So it's not so confusing, I'm going to go ahead and turn off all the skews. Okay, so what we would do is we click on this rectangle here, and then let's go ahead and set it in motion, play it. And you can see where it goes from bottom to top. Well, let's go ahead and make that duration a little bit quicker. Let's make it a half of a second. There we go. So now all we're going to do to finish out these elements, you can see on these skews we had 14 of them. All we're going to do is click on this rectangle, copy, click on this rectangle and paste. Then we're going to bring this one over, and this is rectangle now, rectangle 2. And we're going to put them right on the edge so that you can't tell that there's two separate rectangles. Well, on this one, we're going to go back up here to reveal. and we're going to do it from the other direction. We're going to do this one from the top. So you're going to have one coming up and one going down. So let's go ahead and do that. And you can see the effect that that gives us. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to continue going with this pattern of copy and pasting and changing the direction until we have this entire black area covered with these red rectangles. And you'll notice that each time I make a new rectangle, I'm changing its direction so they kind of converge on one another. All the odd number ones are going to be going from bottom to top, and the even numbered ones are going to be going from top to bottom. Okay, so we have all the components now made, and let's set it in motion. And you can see it gives us that look right there, which is kind of cool. Okay, so I went ahead and got rid of those, and I'll just go ahead and turn on the gray ones that came with the original graphic. Now the next layer on top of that, there's just a couple components in that, and that's the large black rectangles, which is this element right here. So I'll show you how we made that large black rectangle. I just came over here to where it said rectangle. Okay, so what we did is we drug out this rectangle, and then we're going to go up here under format, and we're going to round over the edges. So let's go ahead, and we'll actually we changed the background color to black. So let's go back to home, change the background color to black, and now we're going to go to to format, and we're going to round over those edges. So we're going to do 20 on X and 20 on Y. And you can see how these corners are now rounded off. Well, also on that element, we had a border. So let's go back to our rectangle 3. We're going to go to home. We're going to come over here where it says color. We're going to change that to white. And then we're going to create a border, and we're going to make the thickness of it 2. So when we do that, you can see now we have a black rectangle with a white border associated with it. So that's how we made that effect. Now, what I'm going to do for the yellow background, which is actually something that comes up when there's a flag on the play, and again, if you go to episode 102, it'll show you the full graphic in motion with all its functionality, and you'll see that when there is a penalty on the play, that the whole background turns, or the edging around the entire background of the graphic turns yellow. And that's just a way to bring attention to those watching that there's been a flag on the play. So how I created that is I actually went and I would have clicked on this rectangle 2, and I would have copied, and then I would have pasted it. And instead of making this one black with a white border, what I did is I made it yellow, and then I didn't have a border on it. So you can actually turn that off by setting the border to 0. So now you can see we have that yellow background, and it does not have a border on it. So now starts the fun part, and I'm going to turn these elements on one by one so that you can see them. Now, as I said, you got to think of this when you're building a graphic in GT Title Designer as going from top to bottom. So far everything else, you can think of it as a foundation for what we're going to do now. Everything that we're going to build now is obviously we want it to display on top of these elements we've already created. So I'm turning all of these off, and then I'm going to turn the layer on. So when I click on visiting team name, it's going to bring in the visiting team name. And then I'm going to bring in the visiting team timeout. And then I'm going to bring in the visiting team logo, the visiting team score, visiting team possession, visiting team background gradient, visiting team background color. So I'll show you how we made these elements. In order to do this element right here, which is the visiting team mascot, all we do is we go over here to where it says image, click on image. So let's go to downloads. So we're going to use this image right here and click OK. And then what we would do is we'd click on this image, and we keep shrinking it down until we have something that's usable for us. And then again, we can use our arrow keys to position it where we want it. Now the next item, or the next element, is going to be visiting team name. This time we're going to go to ABC, and you can see when I hover over it, it comes up text block. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to put a text block right here. And what I do on my text blocks is I want to make sure that I have it centered in the middle up and down and in the middle left to right. And then the font that I like to use is this one right here. Let's make it extra bold. And then something that I do is I click right here where it has these 4 arrows pointing to the edges, and I click on shrink. And that way, if I have a name that's bigger than this text box that I made, it's going to shrink the size of the text down so the name will stay inside the box. Then the next thing that we have to do is we have to make the numbers. Well, the numbers we do the same way. We're actually going to use the ABC again. So we're going to click on ABC. We're going to come over here and drag us out of box. Again, we're going to center it in the middle left to right and the middle up and down. We're going to leave the color black, change our font to the one that we've been using, change our font size, and then we're just going to click in here and we're going to type in 99. And I usually use 99 just so I can get an idea of some of the largest numbers that we can fit inside the box. And again, we're going to make this one extra bold as well. Now, the next element we have to make is we have to make these timeouts, and these timeouts are very easy, and you just use this rectangle here. So we're going to click on that, and we're going to make us a little box. And one thing we want to do with the timeouts, because we are actually going to use the set color function, we have to make sure, and we want to toggle these off, be able to toggle these off and on as well. So we have to go here under data, and we're going to change this from hidden. So we're going to check it. And then we're going to make this show visible toggle. And that way, when we go into vMix title editor, we'll be able to turn those elements off and on. So just for demonstration purposes, let's go ahead back to home, and we're going to change these to white just so that we can see them. And we would title this one Visiting Timeout 1. And then what we're going to do is we're going to copy, and we're going to paste. And we're going to click on this, and you can see where it changed from rectangle 4 to rectangle 5. And then we're going to use our arrow keys again, bring it down. We would title this one Visiting, or we'd VTO2 for Visiting Timeout 2. And then we're going to copy, and we're going to paste again. It changed from rectangle 5 to rectangle 6. And we're going to bring this down, and this would be VTO3. And I know I got things bunched up a little bit here, but that was just to give you an idea of how we made these particular components. Now this right here is our visiting possession, and we make that by clicking on this triangle button here. And go ahead and bring this over, and there's our triangle, but you can see that it's oriented incorrectly. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go to right here where these arrows converge, hold our control key again, and we can rotate it right there. Well, let's go to format, because we want to make sure we're exactly on -90. And what we would do is just click on the triangle 1, use our arrow keys to bring it down where we want it. So for the home team elements, all we're going to do is we're going to capitalize on what we've already done. And let's go ahead and turn on the home team elements. So we're going to turn on home team logo mask, home team score, and then the home team timeouts, home team name, home team background color, home team gradient, and that's all the components. So all we're going to do now is we're just going to copy and paste what we've already done. We would change the designation from a visitor description to a home description. So on this one here, this would be visitor logo. So what we would do is copy and then paste, and then we're going to use our arrow keys to bring it over, and then we would just title this home logo. So we're going to come here to where this would be titled visiting team name if we were going to put this in here, and we would just copy and paste, and then again we're going to use our arrow keys, and this would be entitled home team name is what we would call that. So we're going to come over here now, and we're going to click on the visiting timeout 1. We're going to copy and paste it, use our arrow keys, and we would call this HTO1 for home timeout 1, and then we're going to copy and paste 2 more times. We're going to bring this down. This is going to be home timeout 2 and home timeout 3. And again, for these, we want to make sure that when we go to data, they all say show visible toggle, because we want to make sure we have the ability to toggle these off and on and to be able to change the color of them. So the last thing we have to do, we'll come over here and click on this. This would say visiting team score if we had this labeled correctly. So we're going to copy and we're going to paste and we're going to bring it over here, and we would label this home team score. Now the last thing we have to do is the home possession. So we're going to click on visitor possession, copy, paste. We're going to bring this over, and we changed it to -90. So let's go up here under format, and where it was -90, we're going to change this to -270 and click enter. And now you can see that the orientation is in the correct direction. Okay, and this is the top silver tube. So how we created this is just a rectangle, and then we put a gradient on it, and we also rounded over the ends. So we're going to come over here to where it says rectangle, going to bring us out that rectangle, and let's click on this and see what, let's see, we used a radius of 31, so we're going to use that same radius. And now to give it that rounded effect, we're going to put a gradient on it. So this is the way the gradient looked for this one. You'll see in just a moment when we first bring this up, we're going to have two endpoints. We're going to have one to the far left and one to the far right. One to the far left is going to come in as black, and the one to the far right is going to come in as transparent. So as you can see, we have black on the ends. We have a darker gray, the next two most inner points, and then in the middle we have a lighter gray. We'll click cancel, and then we're going to click on this one. We're going to go up here under fill color, select gradient, and as I said, well, I was wrong about that. It actually came in as red. We're going to add us 4 additional stops. We're going to click the add stop button 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go ahead and space them out. So we're going to make these 2 furthest ones black. So how you do that is you come to here where it says color, you click on these 2 dots. It brings you all the colors that we have available to us, and we're going to click on black, and we're going to do the exact same thing for this one. You can see this other endpoint comes in as all zeros, and it shows that it's transparent, but we're going to make this one black as well. So let's click on black. These next inner ones, we're going to make it a darker gray. Let's click on this one right here. Do the same thing for this one. And then this last one, we're going to make a very light color, and we're going to choose this one right here. Now, if we wanted to, we could slide this over and copy. And then when we come to this one, we click on this button. We'll get rid of what's in there, and then we'll paste. So that's 2 ways you can add color. And let's click apply and OK. And you can see how we got that rectangle. Now we have one more. We have a bottom silver tube. So let's click on that. And the way that we made that one, all we did is we copied this one and pasted it, and then we used our arrow keys and we brought it down here. Now we also have a top thin line, and it's this right here, and all this is a rectangle. Let's go ahead and bring this one up. All it is a rectangle just like this one with the same exact gradient, but it's just a little bit shorter in length. So let's go ahead and bring this in, and then we can go up here, and that looks like the thickness is probably about 5. So let's go under format, and where it says height, which is actually our thickness, let's go ahead and make it 5 and see what that looks like. That's too thin. Let's make it 10. There we go. And then we're going to go under home, fill color, gradient, and we're going to do the exact same thing. 1, 2, 3, 4. Space them out. The 2 end ones we're going to make black again. The next 2 innermost points we're going to make that gray. And then the 2 innermost points we're going to make those silver. Click apply and OK. And you can see how we have that element right here. Now we also have a bottom bar, which is part of the graphic, and we did that in a little bit different way, not black on the edges, but it's a darker color on the edges. So let's go ahead and start to work on that. So we'll pull this out, let's see how we did the gradient here so we can make it match. Okay. So what we did is on the two most outer on both ends, we made them that second color gray that we've been using, and then we made the middle ones that same silver color that we've been using. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll click on this. We'll go to gradient. We're going to add 4 stops again and spread them out. And then on these, we're going to make this color gray. We're going to do the same thing for the next set. And then the innermost ones we're going to make silver. And click OK and apply. And you can see where those look very similar. We need to space those middle ones out just a little bit to give us that larger, lighter area. So we're going to click on this, going to go to gradient, and let's spread these guys out a little bit. And click apply. And that's not quite the same. I still need to do a little bit of adjusting, but you can see how we have that lighter part there in the middle. That's the bottom silver tube that we already made. So let's go ahead and move this one out of the way. For the top black background, all I did was duplicate this one. Going to use the arrow keys to bring it up a little bit. And what I did is I changed this one from a gradient to a solid color of black. And rectangle 14 is going to have to be behind rectangle 10. And let's go ahead and I'm going to use the arrow key and bring it up. And you can see now how we have that highlighted background. Let's bring it up a little bit more. There we go. Now you can see how we have that black background behind that tube. I'd probably make it a little bit bigger as well. So let's go to format where we have a width of 775. Let's go ahead and make it 790. And you can see that made it bigger. And let's use our arrow keys. Bring it down just a smidge. And then that pretty much gives us the same effect. Now, the other thing we have to do on this element is we have to give it a border. So we're going to go home, we're going to go color, we're going to make it white, and we're going to make it 1. Let's make it 2. And now you can see where we have that white border there as well. And we have to bring in our clock. And for our clock, all we did is we used the ABC. Let's click on that. Make us a text box, center it in the middle up and down, in the middle left to right. Choose our font, and we're going to go ahead and make this one white for contrast. So our fill color, we're going to make it white. And then we're going to choose the extra bold, increase it in size, double click in here, and we're going to make it say 12 minutes. Now, the one thing we didn't do was we didn't click shrink. So now we're going to come here, select this, click shrink, and we'll just center that, and we put in 8 minutes. So the next thing we're going to show is we're going to show the quarter. And for the quarter, we just made a text box again. So click on ABC, bring it here, center it in the middle up and down and left to right. We're going to change the fill color of this so that we can see it to yellow. Choose the font we've been using and extra bold. Make sure we select shrink. And we're going to type in here half. We can use this as quarter, halftime, final, overtime. We'll have a lot of different designations for that, and you'll see how we'll use those in our next episode. The last thing that we need to turn on is down and distance. We just use the ABC again, so let's go ahead and drag this out. Again, we're going to center it in the middle up and down, left and right. We're going to make it white. We're going to select shrink. Choose our font, extra bold. Let's bring it up in size. And then we'll just make this say 4th and inches. So let's just go ahead and bring it back in to make sure that we have covered everything. You can see the black background here that I was telling you about. And then when there's a flag on the play, that's when we bring in the yellow background. And you can see how the yellow background comes in. And we have the ability to turn the possession off and on. So the home team possession, we can turn that off, back on. Visiting team, off and back on. Timeouts as well. And we're going to go over all of this in depth in part 3 of this 3-part series, where we're going to show you this vMix UTC controller that controls this graphic, how we set it up, and we'll show you the commands that we use for each one of the buttons. That will conclude our tutorial for today. I hope you found it informative. This was our Football Graphic 2024 tutorial. This is part 2 of the 3-part series, and this was called Graphic Construction, and this was episode 104 of One Man Stream. If you could, please stop by our website. That's our graphics store and more, and that's at www.onemanstream.com. That's where we have the graphics that we've created throughout this tutorial series, as well as the graphic that I showed you today. And the UTC controllers for football will also be there as well. And we also have some One Man Stream merchandise. Nothing there is too expensive. The graphics and controllers are a few dollars a piece, and it is a way that you can help support One Man Stream. If you like what we're doing here at One Man Stream, please give us a thumbs up and a like. Make sure you do subscribe so that you'll be alerted as soon as new videos are posted. And thank you very much.